The stylization in Nuke will look something like this, in which we have here the color information, and you will have all of MNPRX's AUVs connected to a watercolors or a stylization pipeline. Doesn't matter if it's watercolor. So how do we bring, first of all, how do we bring all of our AUVs in? For this, we've created a handy tool here. Under stylization, you can go into load MNPRX files. I'm going to go directly to the shot and going to load any AUV should work. Just double click on it and it will automatically replace all of the required AUVs to the stylization basically. But however, you may notice that the stylization settings that you have here, they are not the same. So because the scene is very big, the world scale doesn't fit anymore. So something that's really useful is you can go to Maya and export the stylization, basically the style. Once you click here, export, you can save it somewhere. And if you come to Nuke, you can load that MNPRX stylization file, as you see it here. Once we load that up, these attributes automatically change and you're going to see the result as soon as I put the right color input. And there we go. So now we have the same stylization that we have here in Maya running in Nuke, as you can see. So this is the traditional way of doing this, in which we are recreating the entire stylization that is happening inside of Maya, but inside of Nuke this time. So if we go here, this is what's happening. These are all the different steps to reproduce the stylization. Let's go back to the node graph, and here you can change every attribute as you wish to have it reflecting more what you're after. So something that's also very useful is, for example, here you can combine things that are rendered with a different software as well. So in the previous example, I had this Arnold render, and I plugged that into the stylization to have kind of like global illumination and shadows and so forth. So you can really combine that to craft your own or to push the style further. Now, something that's very important is if you want to really take advantage of all the bleeding and all the watercolor effects that are being done, you should put whatever you're doing before the stylization even takes place. So that's very important because if you want the paper texture to show up, you will need that, or the bleeding or the darker edges. You're only gonna accomplish that if everything that you compose is before the actual stylization. Let me show you that with an example. Okay, so if we navigate here and we load a different render that I created, there we have it. For this case, I also rendered it out using Arnold to have a bit of a global illumination and so forth. So I can hook this up here, and then you're gonna have the Arnold render stylized instead of the MNPRX render. So something very important is if you want the bleeding to look right, you should disable anti-aliasing from the Arnold render. Otherwise, you might get some weird artifacts along the edges that you don't really want to have. So yeah, this is the traditional way in which the stylization is handled entirely within Nuke again. I'm gonna make a different video tutorial in the future in which we do a hybrid approach, because in here we don't really have anti-aliasing. So the way to fix this would be maybe to render it at a much bigger resolution and then bring it back down in Nuke, but that's not always possible. So I'm gonna do a video in the future in which you can render something with temporal anti-aliasing and still have a nice result here in the end. So more like a hybrid render. So you can also change individual targets. That is no problem. Just keep in mind though that the Blink script framework within Nuke is very susceptible or delicate with different resolutions. So if you put something in here that is a different resolution than the rest of the inputs, it might crash. It might make Nuke crash. So just keep that in mind. That's why it's much better to just use these tools here, because they will simply unplug everything and replug everything with a new resolution, so you won't have these kind of problems anymore.